This is kryptonite, the color of money. What if Superman was just strong, not super humble and brainy? What if he became a bully, drunk with power, and believed he was ordained to rule? What if he became a politician, a spy for Putin, a money launderer for Russian oligarchs? What if he didn't have a cute black curl on his forehead and wore a dead orange squirrel for a toupee? What if he date raped Lois Lane and forced himself on women again and again and again? What if he didn't believe truth, justice, and the American way applied to him? What if, despite all this, folks still bought his comic books and believed he was ordained to rule? This is a phrastic poem. There was an art piece at a gallery where I was asked to infract some by an artist, a Korean-American artist named Una Kim. She lives in Oregon, but it was here in South Carolina. And this is called Praying to the Patriarchs. So I had to write it in her voice. Threadbare dress, sinew and bone, calloused feet on the ground, hands in air. I have 4 kids. Don't call me lazy. I work 3 jobs, none pay a living wage. I'm not your incubator to impregnate and leave. I make ends that have no end meet. Pay me a living wage and give me my rights, because I refuse to go away or stay down forever. Talking with Mary. She said she walks to church each morning but does not go to Mass. She says she lights a candle for her children ICE took away. She said she talks with the statue of Mary and Mary talks back. She said she avoids confession and the man behind the screen. She said she once threw holy water on a nun, hoping she would melt. She said she dreamed of becoming a virgin again, but not to be holy or pure. She says she wants to be a virgin so men don't own her. She said she wishes she could take her children back and hold them to her breast. She said she talks with the statue of Mary and Mary talks back. Mary was made into a statue so she couldn't run away to a quaint country village for an anniversary weekend. Mary says she likes lowing cattle, angels singing in the night, the smell of sheep, dirt, hay, and Joseph. Mary said she is thankful for 3 strangers at her door and the gold, frankincense, and myrrh they left. She said she used their treasure to bribe the border guards and keep her baby at her breast. She said she talks with the statue of Mary, and Mary cries. My wife is going this way, so I'm going to end with a short one. There's a philosopher named Ram Dass who says some great things. He died 2 or 3 years ago during COVID. But this is based upon something he had said. This is called Turn Your Porch Light On. We are all human. I don't care about your labels, liberal, conservative, boomer, X or Y, homed, homeless, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, pagan, Jew. black, white, pink, or green, gay, straight, transgendered, citizen, immigrant, we are all on a reunion path. Turn your porch light on and walk each other home. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Holly Hawk Paget. I'm going to be reading a poem I wrote in 2016 after the first election. I was coming home from the Standing Rock movement in North Dakota, and I wrote this poem. It's called Mother Mirth. When the water runs black, there will be no turning back. Back to the clarity of our river reflection, where I sat on the day of the latest election and I cried. I cried into the flowing ohm from the water's edge, for our stolen home where we teach our children to pledge allegiance to a flag striped with colonization and indigenous blood. Instead of bringing ourselves and our children to the forests and streams to worship the mud of our Earth Mother's womb. Pachamama and Grandmother Moon, her tides sing songs through resonant ripples. Life force flows out of her generous nipples on which we gnaw and chew raw with greed. Is that how we thank her, we children, her seeds? We come from this earth, from her waters we are birthed. Her stones tell the stories of our ancestors' bones, and the air in our chests fills from her tree-laden breasts. And our spirits, sacred fire from her crystalline core. Isn't that enough to inspire you to feel grateful and more, to stand on your feet on this sacred ground and feel your heartbeat rise to a higher vibration, one of healing, uniting, empowering nations, to gather and grow and share all that we know from the truths of our souls with no charges, no tolls, just giving and receiving in the arena of love. As free as the hawk with the grace of the dove, let's follow our hearts back to the start where the seed first fell onto fertile ground. And as it reached for the light, we found a reason for living in a gentle way. So our great-grandchildren will know bounty and play in great gardens of fruit trees, and they'll dance in a clean breeze, and they'll bathe in clear rivers overflowing with fish. You know what I wish? I wish for no more drilling and no more spilling. I wish for no more hateful disrespect from the president we elect. I wish for less stealing, more healing, and an end to the strife. I wish for a beginning to life where we drop our shields and we meet in a field to all hold hands and collectively demand that we sack all that lacks in this patriarchal ecosystem, like the fracking attack on our alchemical ecosystem. And finally, I wish we'd embrace the abundance of the life source, our mother, her womb full of seeds, which if we share with each other, would provide all that we need. Dare to dream of a life lived free, pray it to the stream, and it shall be. Thank you.
Hello. I am so glad we're all out here together because strength in numbers, resist. I'm going to start out with just a little news blip. I'm going to go from the sublime to the ridiculous. This way? That better? Okay. A St. Petersburg court sentenced anti-war activist Daria Kozevra to nearly 3 years in prison after ruling she discredited the Russian military by gluing a poem to a monument dedicated to a Ukrainian poet. Prosecutors had requested 6 years in prison for her. She was detained on February 24th, 2024, on the second anniversary of Russia's all-out invasion of Ukraine. She was arrested after she glued an excerpt of a poem by Taras Shevchenko, a poet and thinker who is widely revered in Ukraine for a statue of Shevchenko standing in St. Petersburg. In her closing statement to the St. Petersburg court on April 18th, Kozreva quoted briefly from a Shevchenko poem and then referred to Ukraine's independence. Ukraine is a free country, a free nation, and it will decide its own fate. Of course, I dream of Ukraine getting back every inch of its land, including Donbass and Crimea. I believe that one day my dream will come true. One day history will judge everything fairly, but Ukraine has won anyway. It has already won, that's all. And this is the poem written by Taras Shevchenko, translated by John Weir. It's called My Testament. When I am dead, bury me in my beloved Ukraine, my tomb upon a grave mound high, amid the spreading plain, so that the fields, the boundless steppes, the Dnieper's plunging shore, my eyes could see, my ears could hear the mighty river roar. When from Ukraine the Dnieper bears into the deep blue sea the blood of foes, then I will leave these hills and fertile fields. I'll leave them all and fly away to the abode of God, and then I'll pray. But till that day, I know nothing of God. Oh, bury me, then rise ye up and break your heavy chains, and water with the tyrant's blood the freedom you have gained. And in the great new family, the family of the free, with softly spoken, kindly word, remember also me. So here's to this very, very brave young 19-year-old woman. I have two of my own that's going to pale in comparison. This one's more recent. It's called Man-Made. He probably began as someone's pet rock, but became more like a boulder, an immovable feast of granite, countering even himself. Nothing is a dead giveaway anymore. A cemetery of plastic flowers burst with color, even during downpours. The only roots that grow above ground sprout unwanted gray. Boxes of hair dye with no expiration date line up for monthly applications. A double amputee's running blades become an issue for slow sprinters, and being born in a strange body is amendable. Polystyrene bowls weigh nothing and last forever anywhere. No need for climate control or preservatives. Flavorings fade and fuses on pre-lit Christmas trees burn out. I am stuck in a trompe-l'oeil life, ditching dried tubes of mascara, lipstick, caked foundation. They've become fake news on my face. And finally, I think you'll know who this is. $47.95 to read. I hope you all pay. Bitcoin preferred. I will be the greatest poet of all time, and I will make poetry great again. Because as you read this line, and the next, and the million after that, the only shaking old Willie can do is of my hand. The abuse of my greatness will lead to their remorse and my power. My words can frost frost. Democracy is only for the best people, and we know who we are. You might think my meaning burns Bobby, so go on, dare me to be honest, to pardon myself. Courts are for cowards. Even that pear lady, my Anju, will take notes on my clear communications. What's done is done now that I have a plan. Literally a great plan for concepts of a poem, concepts so perfect because this, like all things I write, is a very important issue. Poetry is poetry, and you have to have it. Walt Whitman knew this. Now, finally, America will be the greatest poem because I write it. Walt makes mistakes, which is why he deserved his enemies. But I deserve my friends. And his bridge in Philadelphia will be renamed for me, the greatest poet in America. Don't expect the fake news to cover my success. They'll cheat me out of my Nobel Prize. That panel always rigs the vote. So many ways to bury great lines, subvert my genius. Just look at these line breaks. Everyone else reading tonight is an idiot. Thank you, and God bless.
How's this?
Get closer, please. Get closer.
All right, how's it? No, not gonna hear it. Okay. So, unlike everybody else, I don't read my poems, so this is an experiment. You are triggered by this election. You fear control of your country is slipping out of your grandchildren's hands. Hands that you hope are white and cisgender and only hold books written in English. I am triggered by your candidate and his supporters. I am Jewish and queer, and a friend of multiple people with trans kids. You know, I just realized, I'm sorry, I accidentally deleted part of this.
It happens.
This is the danger on the phone. Oh well. Anyway, I am triggered by January 6th. All things that trigger are not equally valid.
Hello. That sound, can you hear me?
Yes.
How's that? Is that good? My name's Janet Orselli, and my poem is called The Fly, and I'll give you some background on that. I am one of these that does not kill anything, hardly. A fly can go either way. Sometimes I do kill flies, or roaches, or mosquitoes, but rarely anything, so keep that in mind as I'm reading the poem. My Microsoft Word program asked me, "How bad do you want to write this poem? Bad enough to unstick your stuck laptop?" "Oh, guess so," I grumble, worried the poem will fly my mind if I stop. Along with the drops of rain so badly needed, we beg birds and cats and gods for it. While red-hot, angry forest fires burn our mountains bare, inching ever closer like Native American dancers on the edge of the circle, we beseech the fire. Burn away the wicked of the world, not our beautiful things. Burn the evil among us, not and those bent on our destruction. But now I've forgotten how the poem was to begin. Oh yes, the fly, barely unable to move a wing, hiding inside my house, a refuge from the red air alert, desperate for lungfuls of fresh air. That fly, so sad, should I have mercy, put him back in his element? Maybe kinder to swat it down, use its death to unleash a well of volcanic anger growing ever stronger, threatening to spew a slew of oaths at that hellishly evil deceiver, Donald Trumpelstiltskin. He, like the fly, whirling incessantly, spinning, taunting, wanting to be swatted down. Yet I stop. Smashing that fly to smithereens will not heal our country's calamities. Scooping him out of thin air, I return him to his home, though a hell of its own. And then the rain, the blessed rain comes. Might my small kindness have delivered it? Maybe love, mercy, forgiveness offer salvation after all? Maybe this poem will change America. People will love again, come together, find the wisdom of this moment. Inspired, I rush to my laptop, to record this miracle of revelation. But Microsoft Word, a symbiotic chamber of my mind, hiccups. Whoa, this is a big problem. You're only one old ant in this ant farm. You and a wheezing fly cannot resuscitate democracy. Defying my mind's adjudications, I march to the kitchen counter, find my phone, look up my notes, unstick my laptop, and spy the fly who somehow escaped my saintly hands, waiting yet again for redemption or annihilation.
Testing, testing. Can everybody hear? Okay. I've been an activist for 45 years. I'll be 75 next month. I don't know what decade I wrote this poem, but it's entitled Man Kind ? I used to think man could be noble, given the time and freedom to see his inner nature revealed at last, down through antiquity. Yet time and time and time again, I watched and hoped to see an end, not unlike a tunnel of man's brutality. He chooses fear and chooses hate, then holds himself blameless and calls it fate. Thus mankind, having failed the test to put all life above the rest, in willful ignorance refuses to see his destiny lay hidden in his humanity. If mankind could but destroy himself alone and let nature and animals free to roam, I'd shed not a tear for his demise, his deceit, his greed, his avarice and lies. So his epitaph should read, I'll condescend. Man himself wrote his own end. Now, I no longer ascribe to that because it was written decades ago. And everybody being on the spiritual path they are, I realize that everybody is where they are because of who and what they want to be, or fate, or denial, or any of the other myriad excuses we all use. But please, I'm going to share a book that I read 2 years ago, and I think everyone in America needs to read, because we're losing our sovereign republic as we never were a democracy. This book took 20 years to write. It's called Government by Consent. The author's name is John Darash, D-A-R-A-S-H. All right? The history that we've never heard, because if you have a government-funded public education system, you have a controlled curriculum. Read the book. Now there's a caveat. You're going to have to make an investment in a second book, and it's called Black's Law Dictionary. The 4th edition was when we almost lost our country to the Civil War. The present day 12th edition has been totally subverted by Congress for 100 years. So anybody who thinks that a conspiracy is a theory has not read global history, just very, very edited and censored American history. In global history, you will find that conspiracies are the norm because they are human nature. It has nothing to do with controlling the narrative like the government does constantly. And we buy into it, and I don't know why. I have yet to uncover that. But if you compare the 4th edition, which there's a link, I'll give it to you. If you compare the 4th edition, which was the Civil War edition, With the 12th edition, you will have your proof that our country has been totally subverted, the Constitution technically destroyed, but if you go to nationallibertyalliance.org, one word, no hyphen, you will get access to both the 4th and the 12th edition, so you can read both yourself and compare how bastardized our Constitution became while we weren't paying attention. Thank you.
Here's my banner, but before resisting, I would like to introduce the new pledge. Please salute to our state, North Carolina. Salute, like this. North Carolina. Can you do it? We raise a smile to this resplendent land that sustains us, where, in all elements, our conscience maintains a democratic way from the Blue Ridge to Outer Banks. One state ever to be North Carolina. Yay! Titled, A World That Flies Free. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight lies in that first year. On the 5th day of April in 25, hardly a person, dead or alive, can forget the tumultuous time. Proudly our banners we waved on that morn. Stop reigning Nazis, deport inequality, support fair trade. Is suffrage in jeopardy? How long till impeachment? Loyally gathered back then and there, we listened to the speaker's words at the hustling, bustling square. Words. Imagine a world with a rustling of feathers, an eagle saluting to us in approval of our constitutional right to rally. Imagine a world with their songs of allegiance, a world that flies free in clouds of white blooms intermingled with waves of sleepy black bass in diverse Gulf locations without overtones of mass deportations. Imagine a world with free lunches, without greedy parasites swarming in bunches across the school lands, swiping nickels from innocent first graders' hands. Imagine a world where scientists rule, where forests keep reaching, where corals stop bleaching. A cool world, an awesome world, worthy. A world where artists in Congress restore legislation that voters be heard with inalienable registrations without further blockades at our state polling stations. Imagine a world with cascades of justice, with origins of species abound, with privacy rights in all rooms of your home, without oligarchs shutting you down. Imagine this world, gleaming with pride in years now and years to be, where equities replace bigotries with liberty for all, without those snide kings, a world without them, a world with fondness, without Elon, without his demonic President Donald, yes, a world without him, without them. Shout for a world without tyrants. Now, shout for a world without tyrants. Imagine a world with tolerance. Listen for tolerance. And during these times, listen for sensibility. Listen once more. and you shall hear the tolling of freedom afar to near. We've regained our democracy, loud and clear. So tell me, my children, without any fear of condemnation, damnation, discrimination, misrepresentation, tell me now, what do you think and hear? We hear a world with poetry. Imagine that.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. So I kind of was looking back through my poetry, and the first one I actually wrote in, I think it was around 2012 or 13. I was living in Houston, Texas, and there was a mosque there, the Ismaili Community Mosque, and they had decided to do a sculpture called Tolerance. And the sculpture, it's actually 9 sculptures, and they're beautiful. They're woven with the language of 9 different countries. And when I saw it, when I crossed the bridge, I was just blown away. Our meeting at Rosemont Bridge. As soon as I cross the Rosemont Bridge, I am your lover. 9 alphabets laced together, your silver skin weave sunlight, shadow. All 7 of you I take as mine, each body a sky, green oak, warm winter day. How hungry I am to be a part of you, sit with you, knees on stone, the blood of all religions flowing through my veins. And then I wrote this one in 2020. Let me think. Yeah, 2020 with during the lockdown, and there was our museum was open, but you had to wear masks and you had to go at certain times, so there weren't a lot of people in there. And I went. There was a new exhibition outside, and it was called Inner Landscape. And a friend of mine said, "What do you think about that?" And I wrote this poem, Inner Landscape. Oh, and the sculpture was by Cristina Iglesias. The year of hibernation, we are ill, put on masks, draw our guns, fire pistol or mouth, believe no one. We don't recognize our landscape, the crack in our lithosphere, a place of stream, mud, root, and rock where we swim like snakes, writhe underwater without reflection. The rift is too raw for loam or peat or green. It is brown, smells like metal and mud. It aches, unleashes centuries of twist and fissure. There are no truths in this exposure. We are stymied, wounded, coiled too tight, unable to relax or thrive from one root. And then 2021, January 6th, I happened to be watching the news. I saw everything, and I wrote this, and I was just shocked by how the narrative started to change after actually watching live TV what happened. Inaugural winter. The leaves are like birds, take flight in cool green air. Oranges ride the wind. I am Alice in the cave of a tree. Fanciful things, winter delights, sugar plums, anthropomorphic forms, cat wisdom. Where do we go from here? Backwards, forwards, we don't recognize ourselves. Christmas glow participants blanketed by fake snow, fake news, riots, how the black dog foams at the mouth. We fumble with the leash, look into his eyes, look into his eyes. We fumble with the leash, how the black dog foams at the mouth. Riots, fake news, blanketed by fake snow. We don't recognize ourselves. Forwards, backwards, where do we go from here? Cat wisdom, anthropomorphic forms, sugar plums, winter delights, fanciful things in the cave of a tree. I am Alice. Oranges ride the wind in the cool green air, take flight. The leaves are like birds. And then thank you. I'll close with this last one that I wrote recently. I moved here recently from Texas, and I had looked at the news, and I saw a picture of a little boy, and his name, I don't know his name, but his mother's name is Mirabel Bernardez, and she was seeking asylum from Honduras, and she was detained, and her son was on his way to find her, and he actually got detained, and I wrote this poem for them. Asylum Seeker's Son. He is the 10-year-old who wears a sky blue shirt and looks away from the camera to the large live oak in the Crescent City. And though he is free and finally reunited with his mother, we are still searching for his child face, which he lost to zero-tolerance immigration policy in Shiloh, Texas, during those fuzzy months of repeated drugging by the care team who wanted to stop him from wailing for his mother while temporarily detained.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. I have to preface this with a little bit of a story. Back in 1984, I had moved to Washington, D.C. to try to do something about nuclear weapons, and I encountered a vigil in front of the White House. And within a few days, I had quit my job and joined the vigil, and I was part of it for the next 25 years. And in 1988, several of us were sent to prison, charged with camping. And so while I was sitting in DC jail waiting to be transported to Lexington, Kentucky, to the penitentiary there for a 3-month stint, I wrote this poem to the enforcers. I forgive you, whose blindness has placed us in here. I pray you are wiser, your vision more clear. If you understand karma, you'll relinquish force rather than cage us for living our choice. Sages worldwide have cautioned their flocks. Karma's the power that no one should mock. Do unto others as you would have done. Wear the shoes of your neighbors, or if they have none, go shoeless a mile before you condemn. Before caging us, lock yourself in the pen. If I had known how cruel is the cage, yet still I'd have written the very same page that brought me here. This hell I endure to convince you and others, our witness is sure. Unless we choose God's laws, O imperfect man, we'll soon end this game the way it began. The board swept of players, when greed, ego, strife radiate poisons and extinguish all life. So yes, I'll return to the sidewalk again, though you jailed us, distorting our actions in vain. But if you grasp karma, the bench will be bare. You never will cage us for daring to care. For God pledged, who judges, judged one day shall be, but those who love life are eternally free.
This is resistance. I will not pledge allegiance to the hat that divides these states of America, or to the Republicans on whom it sits. This nation, under men acting like gods, is divisible, with liberty and justice in chains and power in the hands of fools. Courting disaster. The so-called leader of the so-called free world flouts the rules, defies the courts just to see what he can get away with. The faster he goes, the faster we are plastered up against the wall, stuck like the kid the bullies duct taped to his locker after gym class, feet not quite touching the floor, wondering if the janitor will be coming to sweep up soon. We are stuck, wondering if our feet will ever feel solid ground again and whose job it will be to sweep up the pieces. Once upon a time, the cure for bullies was someone who would stand their ground, someone who'd whip that bully's ass for good and all. Where are they now? I think it might get better, but this one's called torture. If it comes to this, what then? Sticks and stones and bones and blood and flesh and bone again. My mind reminds me I am more than this. Less than would be better. Less enough to lessen pain, to listen with unearthly ears to earthbound cries and gasps. To say, there is still more to me no matter what you say. To say, love is more than your puny grasping. Squeeze what you will. Take all the blood you can get from this turnip. See me turn up in your dreams, unscathed and bathed in light you'll never know. Ukraine, here we are. What if they came from all over the world, those who are sick to death of the war against Ukraine, flying to the airport in Kiev, landing, deplaning, no luggage, gathering in groups on the tarmac. Suppose young and old join hands, start walking toward the embattled border, armed with nothing more than bottled water and sturdy shoes on their feet, ignoring barked commands at checkpoints to halt, show papers saying, "Sorry, we don't understand your words, so we'll just keep walking." Suppose no matter what happens, they just keep walking. Okay, maybe that's too big an ask. So what if it's all the people who are sick to death of war and also have a terminal diagnosis? Suppose they board the planes with their walkers and wheelchairs and gurneys. Suppose it's they who advance toward the battlefront, their progress glacial, their determination glorious. They speak through translators to the Russian soldiers who stand armed and aghast. Since it seems you need someone to kill, here we are, as good as dead anyway. Take our lives and let these long-suffering people live in peace. We shall overcome. A lifetime ago, with black armband and lengthening hair, and my voice as my only weapon, I sought to overthrow the government. At least whichever part it was that kept sending boys my age across the world to die for no reason I could see. At the rally in the campus auditorium, seated side by side with those who looked and thought like me, after the final speaker, as we stood to sing, "We Shall Overcome," I reached across the aisle and joined my hand with Dr. Corinne Sawyer, English professor. That temporary blurring of the lines of youth and age and class set something loose in me, and I was overcome. And in that moment, all seemed possible, that somehow our voices, unified in ancient anthems of protest and of hope, could end a war so wrong. Our sincerity and earnest innocence paving the way for peace and love at last. That war passed in time, and other conflicts formed the line here and there around the world. This latest now upon us in Ukraine. I claim no longer innocence, but still I am sincere. Maintaining peace and love are all we need, though I'm uncertain of which song might now be best to sing. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hang out as long as you want.